Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Please take your seats. The Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy, Mr. Eliud Owalo, PS Broadcasting, Professor Kisiangani, PS ICT and the Digital Economy, Engineer Tanui, sector leaders, colleagues, particularly from the media, good morning. Good morning again. Karibuni sana for this breakfast. We are happy to see you. And we want to start with the host, the CS, who has called us for breakfast. So I kindly invite the Cabinet Secretary. The program has staged. Sorry. My apologies. We will have the PS ICT, Engineer Tanui. You know, they say change is the only thing that is constant. My apologies. Karibu sana PS.
Thank you, Mulay. Our Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy, Honorable Eliud Owalo, our industry leaders, the CEO of Safaricom, Peter Ndekwa, CEO of JTL, Joshua Jepkony, my colleague PS, Professor Kisiangani, CEOs of several organizations here, our colleagues, Ashish, CEO Airtel, and members of the Fourth Estate, the media, good morning. This is a very important day for us, the entire industry, to converge here this morning to listen to the scorecard which will be presented by our Cabinet Secretary, presenting the industry performance for where we've reached in terms of the commitments that the government has made with the support and commitment of our private sector. We are committed to enable the bottom-up economic transformation agenda through the fifth pillar of digital superhighway and the creative economy. And today's update will be focused on where we are in that sector. So we welcome all of you. We also have our industry players representing the technology partners. I can see Microsoft here, Facebook, many stakeholders who are working with us. We might not be able to introduce all of us because of time, but at the end we'll be having remarks, and at that time we'll do the introductions. So today's focus would be a presentation by our CS, and we will go straight to the comments from our CS. And before that, I think I'll invite my colleague PS Kisiangani to also make remarks. Then we can have our CS make his presentation on the scorecards. And then now we will have the industry and all the other stakeholders make some remarks. My colleague PS Kisiangani, karibu.
Cabinet Secretary, my colleague Engineer Tanui, sector players, riding on the protocols established, ladies and gentlemen. I think the most important thing to recognize today is that our government has almost 1 year since it came into power. It's just shy of a week since the election, the last election we had. And even though we took a little longer to settle, we have accomplished a couple of things which you would like to tell the public about. What we're going to tell the public is just a reminder about where we are, because some of the things that we have accomplished are already within the public domain. So because of that, we will not take a lot of time, going into details, but we shall just give highlights of what we are supposed to do. So as a government, we have a duty to give direction about what we're going to do in the next 1 year again. And I'm sure in the next 1 year, we shall still come here and still say, this is where we have reached. And then another year, we shall again demonstrate where we are. And after 5 years, we can have a general scorecard of what we have achieved during the period that we have been in office. So I think this is a very important occasion, and we are looking forward to many other government entities doing the same thing that CS Owalo is going to do today, to make sure that everybody explains what they have been doing. And it's part of our performance contracting portfolio, which is taken very seriously by His Excellency the President. So we are implementing the spirit and the letter of the Kenya Kwanza government. So without tiring you with so many things this morning, I recognize that many of the CEOs are busy. We are also busy, and we would like to take the shortest time here. I now wish to welcome our ministry's head, Minister Eliud Owalo, to come and just run us through what we have gone through during the last 9 or so months. Thank you. Welcome, Bwana CS.
Okay, let me first of all start by thanking all of you for positively responding to our invitation, so that we share with you what in our view is our scorecard for the previous year's activity period. Let me state from the onset that this is an output. The scorecard that I'm going to share with you is an output of a team effort, entailing integral input from all of us, starting with the ministry, and in this regard, may I recognize the support and cooperation I've received from my two PSS, Engineer Tanui and Professor Kisangani, and also support from the implementing agencies. We have got Mr. Quiri here, the CEO of KONZA. We have got Ezra Chiloba, the Director General of Communication Authority. We have got Mr. Tanui there, the Postmaster General. We have Mr. Maina, KBC. We have the Data Commissioner, Madam Kasait. We have the acting CEO of KIMC and the Kenya Yearbook as well, Mr. Stanley Kamanguya there of ICTA. And then we have got our partners from the private sector, starting with the MNOs, the telecommunication service providers. So it's basically going to be a sum total of our performance as an industry, ladies and gentlemen. Now, based on our mandate, ladies and gentlemen, we are charged with the responsibility as a ministry of playing a very critical role in implementation of the overall Kenya Kwanza bottom-up economic transformation agenda, better. As you are aware, that bottom-up economic transformation plan entails 5 thematic areas. There's agriculture, there is universal health coverage, there is housing, there is small and medium enterprises, and finally, we have the digital superhighway. The digital superhighway, ladies and gentlemen, was deemed appropriate to be a standalone thematic area in the Kenya Kwanza plan because ICT is not just an enabler to everything else that we are doing as government, but it is also a critical success factor for government moving forward. And in that regard, ladies and gentlemen, there are certain fundamental roles that we are expected to execute, informed by our mandate. One, we are tasked with the responsibility of rolling out a minimum of 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable, so that those parts of the country that hitherto did not have reliable and stable internet get connected. That is one thematic area. Two, we are charged with the responsibility of establishing and operationalizing a total of 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots, more so targeting those who are domiciled at the bottom of the economic pyramid for purposes of inclusivity and also as a means of facilitating e-commerce, which is the new frontier that we are pursuing. Three, we are expected to establish a total of 1,450 digital laboratories. Those digital laboratories have got two main objectives: one, digital skilling, and two, digital jobs. We are also expected, ladies and gentlemen, based on that infrastructure in place, to facilitate the digitization of government records on one hand and digitalization of government services on the other, so that we can have all government services on technological platforms to facilitate virtual uptake or consumption of government services by Kenyans. Again, we are also expected to initiate the process of the pursuit of digital entrepreneurship. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, we are expected, as far as the ICT component is concerned, to ensure that everything that we are doing is undertaken within a framework that ensures both data privacy and data security. On the side of our broadcasting and telecommunications ambit, there are fundamental objectives that we have set out to pursue. And I did mention this from the onset when I was undergoing my vetting leading as management, that at some point in time, I would wish that my performance on behalf of the industry and on behalf of the ministry that I had be evaluated on the basis of revitalization of KBC, revitalization of the Postal Corporation of Kenya, the Kenya News Agency, and facilitating optimal capacity levels or performance levels of KIMC and the Kenya Yearbook. And again, we are pursuing things with great zeal, ladies and gentlemen. Against that background, may I now have the distinguished honor and privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to give you our first one-year scorecard. In the space of the digital superhighway, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, we are expected to roll out a minimum of 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable. Our target for June 2023 was 5,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable. I'm happy to report that we have surpassed that target, and we have managed, as we speak, to realize a rollout of 5,280 kilometers. This rollout, ladies and gentlemen, consists of two integral components. One, the component rolled out by government itself, and the component rolled out by the private sector. In the pursuit of our digital transformation agenda, we have stated many a time before, and I want to repeat, that we will work in partnership with the private sector to meet our goals and objectives. So as far as the initial 5,280 kilometers of fiber is concerned, as government, we have managed to roll out 2,500. The private sector players have managed to roll out 2,500 kilometers, while as government, we have managed to roll out 2,780 kilometers. And in this regard, I wish to thank integral players who have made this possible, and this include Liquid Telecom, the Wananchi Group, Safaricom, and Airtel, among others. Also, we have gone ahead, ladies and gentlemen, to map out those parts of the country that desire prioritization as far as the rollout of the 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable is concerned, all over the country. So we have got a master plan for the rollout of the fiber optic connectivity. We have done this, again, in collaboration with integral entities who have hitherto also been involved in the rollout of the fiber. And just to mention, for purposes of clarity, we have had meetings with the Kenya Power, we have had meetings with Kenya Pipeline, Ketraco Telecom, Kenya Railways, and the Kenya Pipeline Corporation. And we have agreed, with a view to achieving the 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable, we have agreed on the role, the components that each and every player is going to undertake. We have gone ahead and agreed on the timelines within which each and every one of us must meet those targets. We have gone ahead also, ladies and gentlemen, to have discussions with the county government, because there's nothing we are going to do which will not take place in a given county government. So we have had discussions with the Council of Governors as far as the rollout of fiber connectivity is concerned. And I'm happy to report that based on those discussions, the county government have accepted to waive any costs pertaining to where lives as far as the rollout of the fiber optic cable is concerned. So we will not be having any fees being paid to the county governments in this regard. And on that note, again, I really want to thank the Council of Governors on behalf of our 47 county governments for that positive gesture. You are also aware that we have been having the Government Common Core Network of ICT infrastructure, which has been in existence since 2008, ladies and gentlemen. It has now started cracking under the weight of age, and we have embarked on upscaling that, and this includes laying out ducts in the central business zone, the Upper Hill area, and all the way to the Kenyatta National Hospital area, so that we are able to mitigate against disruptions of ICT infrastructure. Let me now move to the free Wi-Fi hotspots. Our target here is 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots all over the country. And the objective is to ensure that those Kenyans who are operating at the bottom of the economic pyramid are supported by government to get access to internet. In fact, one of the challenges that Kenyans told us before getting into government was that they wanted the cost of data to be reduced, that the cost of data was very high. But as government, we have deliberately and consciously decided to be proactive to the extent that where we can, we are going to ensure that Kenyans get Wi-Fi for free. And in this regard, ladies and gentlemen, we have embarked on this process with great zeal. Our target was to establish and operationalize 2 Wi-Fi hotspots per county by June 2023. As we speak, we have surpassed this target. We are at a total of 421 free public Wi-Fi hotspots as at July 31st. And this is informed by close collaboration between us as a ministry and the county governments. In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, 194 of those Wi-Fis have been established in partnership with the county governments in markets and around the bus termini, where most of our youth are predominantly domiciled, and we want to change the paradigm by getting both the youth and our mothers and sisters who are involved in itinerary trade within the markets getting involved or facilitated to be involved in e-commerce through this internet connectivity. We have gone ahead to establish another 172 Wi-Fi connections as part of the community innovation hubs, and directly through ICTA, we have established and operationalized another 55. Simultaneously, we have gone ahead to identify a possible 14,690 public Wi-Fi hotspots spread evenly across the country through a partnership between the ministry and the county governments, where we can go ahead and now establish the remaining Wi-Fis with a view to realizing our target of 25,000 Wi-Fi hotspots. Again, for purposes of clarity, ladies and gentlemen, may I state that we have had meetings with the players in the private sector to fast-track this process, and we have agreed on how we are going to roll out the 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots. So we may not even go the full hog of 5 years. In the not too distant future, this will be water under the bridge. We shall have realized our target, and we'll keep on updating the media depending on unfolding events from time to time as the need may be. Coming to the digital hubs. The purpose of the digital hubs, ladies and gentlemen, is to ensure that with the ICT infrastructure in place, we are also correspondingly empowering Kenyans by way of digital skills so that we facilitate optimal uptake of the ICT infrastructure that we are introducing in the marketplace. That is one objective. On the flip side of it, our ultimate aim is to ensure that we empower our youth by through digital jobs, because the white-collar jobs are today limited. The only space where we have got enormous potential as a means of alleviating the unemployment situation in the country is through digital jobs, ladies and gentlemen. And in this regard, our target is to establish a total of 1,450 digital hubs or digital laboratories. For a start, we have started by initiating the Jitume programs within the TVETs. We are doing the same in schools, but eventually we have also earmarked each and every ward in this country for the establishment of a digital laboratory. And to facilitate this, we have held consultations with integral stakeholders to enable us achieve this. We have held consultations with the ICT Committee of Parliament, the ICT Committee of the Senate, and the CDF Committee of the National Assembly as well. And what we have agreed on is that we are going to work in partnership to meet these objectives. Each and every ward must have a digital hub. And the way we want to go about it is that our National Assembly, courtesy of the members of Parliament, will help us identify the sites. They will also make, and this is work in progress, relevant amendments to the CDF Act to facilitate our members of Parliament to meet the cost of recurrent expenditure related thereto, specifically electricity, for example, which has been a challenge. On our side, we will deploy the devices. We will also undertake the training for free as government. We will also go a step further and identify the jobs for our youth, or link our youth to the job market. This initiative, ladies and gentlemen, has got the potential of creating about 1 million jobs for our youth. Each digital hub can create instantly 300 jobs. If we have got one digital hub in each ward, on average, each constituency has got 5 wards. So that means in each constituency, we have got the potential of creating 1,500 jobs. So as opposed to a situation where the youth are migrating to Nairobi or other towns for that matter in search of jobs, we will create the jobs right there in the village. And this is one of the means through which as government, we are going to stem or alleviate rural-urban migration. If anything, we will be having urban-rural migration as far as the youth are concerned in search of jobs. In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, our target was to create or to establish 290 hubs annually. As we speak, I'm happy to report that we have already met the threshold of 174 digital laboratories, ladies and gentlemen. The county governments have also accepted to bring to the table the hitherto polytechnics, which are actually currently underutilized. We want to set up an additional digital laboratories within the polytechnics. The county governments accepted to make them ready for this purpose. And again, in the same vein, we will establish the laboratories, we will deploy the devices, undertake the training within those laboratories, ladies and gentlemen. The next thing is the digitalization of government services. At the very beginning of our term, if you can remember, the government did state at the highest echelons by none other than His Excellency the President himself, that by June this year, end of June this year, we shall have digitalized a minimum of 5,000 services. The rationale for this, ladies and gentlemen, is to ensure that most government services are available on technological platforms. This will facilitate efficiency and effectiveness in service delivery. We have so far surpassed that target, as at 31st, we managed to have fully digitalized a total of 5,084 services, and we had an official launch for this purpose. But we have gone a step further and also identified a total of 9,362 services, government services, that can possibly be digitalized. Our proposition, ladies and gentlemen, is that by the end of the year, all the government services shall have been digitalized. As we speak, over and above the 5,084, which we are digitalized as end of June, we have partially digitalized another 2,550. As we speak, there's fundamental work in progress in finalization of the digitalization of those additional 2,500. So for purposes of clarity, let me give you the comfort that the target of fully digitalizing government services by the end of the year is realistic and achievable. If anything, we will attain it. When we took over government, and by extension the e-citizen platform, we only had a meager 350 services aboard the e-citizen platform, ladies and gentlemen. So this is a major milestone for government. And in terms of prioritization, I'm also happy to report that we have targeted in the initial stages those sectors of the Kenyan economy that are very, very critical for service delivery from government. So we have targeted the Ministry of Health in line with our universal health coverage agenda. We have targeted the Ministry of Lands, more so the lands registry, so that we unlock the potential of what has been clogged in there. The Kenya Revenue Authority. Now, leveraging on this technology, we'll be able to bring in more people into the tax bracket. And we are perhaps able to collect the same level of revenue, tax revenue, at the current fiscal rates of fiscal, without tweaking the fiscal policies. Then transport, e-transport is another area of focus. Education, we want to go the route of e-learning. We no longer need the four walls of a classroom in the era of today to pursue education. That's another area of focus. Then border control, then citizen services, issues to do with passport. And then, of course, the cabinet. We have already also achieved fundamental results in that regard. Allow me now to go to the area of digital skills and correspondingly digital jobs, because the two are like Siamese twins. Again, as a ministry, ladies and gentlemen, we have embarked on two major programs: the Ajira program, which has been ongoing, and the Jitume program, which we have newly introduced. We have managed, through stakeholder alliances and partnerships, ladies and gentlemen, to secure a donation of 23,000 digital devices for deployment for purposes of digital skilling. And our intention in this regard, ladies and gentlemen, is to utilize these devices to have a critical mass of Kenyans acquire optimal levels of ICT skills and also empower our youth for jobs. We have gone ahead, ladies and gentlemen, to deploy these devices in 77 TVETs, a total of 6,700 devices in 77 TVETs. 4 universities, which have received 400 units each. 21 schools, which have received 100 virtual desktops each, and we have been doing this up to and including yesterday, but 1. We have gone ahead and deployed 100 virtual desktops in 8 ministries, departments, integral ministries, departments, and agencies. We have also supported the county governments, and again, so far in this regard, as far as official commissioning is concerned, launch is concerned, we have gone ahead and launched 34 sites. A total of 8,159 devices have been deployed in a total of 112 institutions so far. So that is as far as the digital skilling program is concerned. And we have managed through this process, ladies and gentlemen, to create, as we speak, a total of 109 digital jobs. Concurrently, we have managed to train a total of 336,000 youth on digital jobs, courtesy of the Ajira program and the Jitume program. In the same vein, we are at advanced stage of operationalization of KAIST, the Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, which is going to be a special purpose vehicle for purposes of digital skilling, ladies and gentlemen. We have also managed to operationalize the Kenya National Open University, which is going to be a virtual university, the first of its kind in this country. And I'm happy again to report that tomorrow but 1, the Kenya National Open University will be officially commissioned by none other than His Excellency, the President himself. And this university, ladies and gentlemen, will be domiciled at our Konza Technopolis. The other issue or area of focus is digital entrepreneurship. You know, if we are digitalizing all government services and telling the public that you don't need to visit government offices to consume government services, then the question that comes to mind is whether or not we have got a critical mass of Kenyans with smart-enabled devices. And the answer, as we speak, is that there is a gap in the market. We have got inadequate levels. So as opposed to waiting to be reactive in a proactive manner, because we have been thinking in many facets simultaneously, we have gone a step further to partner with the private sector, ladies and gentlemen, to embark on the assembly of smart-enabled phones in the Kenyan market. This is work in progress at a very advanced stage. Based on feasibility studies, we are going to be able to roll out cheap, smart-enabled phones in the Kenyan market at a unit cost of about $40 within the next 1 month. That will be a major milestone, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll move subsequently from local assembly to local manufacture of the handsets themselves. Yeah? And then we move to the next level of local manufacture of computer software. With all this infrastructure in place, again, ladies and gentlemen, the direction we are going as a country is e-commerce. There's no point of continuing with business as usual, where we have to have physical meetings between the source of raw materials and the market. So in this regard, ladies and gentlemen, we have gone ahead and developed an e-commerce strategy so that we take advantage of the critical ICT infrastructure that we are introducing in the Kenyan market. So far, as enablers of e-commerce, we have got 442 public Wi-Fi hotspots. We already have a total of 22,000 kilometers of fiber installed, 179 complete and functional innovation hubs countrywide, and 112 Jitume laboratories. We have gone ahead further, ladies and gentlemen, to create awareness among the Kenyan public. And as we speak, I'm happy to report that as a means of pursuing our digital economy agenda, we have created awareness among 53% of Kenyan adults and 56% of Kenyan youth as far as our digital transformation agenda is concerned. So in the not too distant future, we will be leveraging on technological platforms for purposes of e-commerce. It does not make sense in the era of today to have a direct interface between the seller of a commodity and the buyer. The other issue that we need to discuss is whether or not there is still rationale for Kenyans to physically visit government offices with the amount of technological infrastructure and digital skilling program that we have in place. Does it make sense? If all services are available on the eCitizen platform on one hand, and on the other hand, we have got a commensurate level of digital skills to facilitate optimal uptake of the ICT infrastructure, then why do we have to tell Kenyans that they still have to continue physically visiting government offices? In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, we have embarked on the process of pursuing a digital identity for all Kenyans. When we talk about digital identity, people start thinking about the Huduma number. And I want to clarify that the digital identity we are talking about is not the same thing as the Huduma number, both in terms of objective and context. The Huduma number was meant to facilitate the development of an electronic population database. What we are saying today is that we need a virtual means through which government can confirm that you are whom you claim to be. And if the answer is in the affirmative, then Kenyans can consume government services from the comfort of wherever they are, without physically visiting government services, informed by one's biodata. And that is the direction that we are going, to have a digital identity for all Kenyans. We have done quite a bit of benchmarking. It has happened in Estonia, it has happened in Belgium, it has happened in Pakistan, it has happened in India. These are best case global examples that we can benchmark with. And Kenya can in no way, ladies and gentlemen, be an exception in this regard. Let me also clarify that when it comes to pass, we will not force any Kenyan to take a digital identity. No. The onus will be on you to decide whether or not you want to consume government services through your digital identity based on your biodata, or you want to physically visit government offices. If the services are available technologically, you have got the commensurate level of digital skilling, and government is able to make at your disposal a digital identity, the probability that most Kenyans will opt for consuming government services using the digital identity is tilted in favor of the affirmative. That is what India has done, for example. We were in India the other day, and they told us that when they introduced the digital identity, they did not force people to take the digital identity. People opted for the digital identity because it was the most logical thing to do. So that is the direction that we are going to go, ladies and gentlemen. Then the other issue is the national addressing system, where we have also made fundamental progress. To facilitate e-commerce, ladies and gentlemen, we have developed a draft policy and bill on the national addressing system. We have had stakeholder engagements. We have gotten comments from stakeholders which have been incorporated in that bill and policy. What we are now moving towards is the step of stakeholder validation before taking it to the next level of cabinet approval. And in the same vein, to augment this, we have gone ahead to undertake the Nairobi cadastral mapping, complete with 241 blocks, which will facilitate our e-commerce strategy. Digitalization of cabinet. Cabinet has been undertaking its proceedings through manual processes and paper. And based on partnership between our ministry and the cabinet office, I'm again happy, ladies and gentlemen, to report that we have achieved fundamental progress in this regard. As at January 2023, all cabinet meetings are now being undertaken virtually. And to facilitate this, we have established, installed, operationalized 92 video conferencing facilities in all government ministries and state departments, the presidency, and the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. That is as far as our digital transformation agenda is concerned. But while doing this, for purposes of comfort, may I also state that we have got an elaborate risk mitigation framework to ensure that we will have proper mitigation measures against any acts of cyber security. We have gone ahead, ladies and gentlemen, to establish and operationalize the Office of the Data Commissioner. The mandate of the Office of the Data Commissioner is to ensure that within our digitalization agenda, we are also ensuring adequate levels of both data privacy and data security. We have gone ahead also, ladies and gentlemen, to establish a multifaceted government team that on a continuous basis is undertaking or scanning the operational environment to be able to determine the patterns, because this is a global issue, the patterns of cybersecurity and what we need to do in a proactive manner to have an elaborate risk mitigation framework around our digitalization agenda. So we are on the right trajectory. And let me also, now that we are on this, reaffirm what I've stated before, that the recent incident that we had was not a case of hacking the eCitizen platform. It was a case of an attempted cyber attack. Hacking means you succeed illegally to get into a technological platform that does not belong to you for ill intentions or malicious intentions, and then you go therein and adulterate the data that is domiciled within that platform. That is not what happened. What happened is that there was an attempted attack on the eCitizen platform, among other platforms, including but not limited to those held in the hands of the private sector. But because we already had an elaborate risk mitigation framework around that space, it was unsuccessful. So I want to assure Kenyans that the data that is held by government on their behalf is secure. That incident did not lead to any infringement of the personal data of Kenyans. So the privacy and security of the data in possession of government is very much upheld. And apart from ensuring that we address that challenge, that incident, which we have fully addressed, we have now reverted back to optimal capacity utilization levels as far as the services on the eCitizen platform is concerned. We have gone ahead to ensure that moving forward, we have got an elaborate risk mitigation framework around our digitalization agenda. So we are going the full hog. We are going to pursue this to a logical conclusion, ladies and gentlemen. The other issue that comes to mind is how we are going to fund all these programs. I'm happy to report that we have managed to secure two integral components of funding, one from the World Bank, a threshold of $570 million US, yeah, courtesy of the Kenya Digital Economy Acceleration Program. We have also managed to negotiate and have secured, for purposes of facilitating universal access to connectivity, an additional 5 billion shillings from the Universal Service Fund to support our digital superhighway agenda on one hand, and the digitalization of government services ambit on the other. That is as far as our ICT and digital economy component is concerned, ladies and gentlemen. On the side of the broadcasting and telecommunication mandate of the ministry, we have embarked on the process of revitalizing the operations of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. We are upgrading the infrastructure. We have been having a challenge of decaying infrastructure. we have embarked on the process of reviewing the content and re-engineering the business model of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. And in this regard, ladies and gentlemen, may I report that modernization of our TV center is ongoing to improve both sound and signal quality. That has been put to tender already at a cost of 170 million shillings. The information is available in the public portal. We have managed to also tender for the purchase of an outside broadcasting van at a cost of 120 million shillings for purposes of transparency. Let me also state the figure. We have also tendered for the purchase of the radio OB van. That is work in progress. We have embarked on negotiations with the Spanish government, ladies and gentlemen, with a view to getting direct foreign capital inflow injection to facilitate the upgrade of our infrastructure, the KBC infrastructure, ladies and gentlemen. We have embarked on the process of migration from medium wave to FM, and in this regard, we have already installed FM transmitters at Marsabit, Lodwar, Webuye, Migori, Kapenguria, Bomet, Malindi, Nyambene, and Nyeri. We have also managed to increase FM radio coverage through the installation of an additional 20 additional transmitters, ladies and gentlemen. The first batch of 10 transmitters have already been procured and is arriving in the country in September 2023. As far as the content and business model of KBC is concerned, again, we are focusing on partnerships and alliances. We have managed to secure sponsorship deals with regard to the World Rugby Championships and also coverage of the Kenyan Premier League by way of free-to-air rights. These have been successfully negotiated by the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. So what I'm saying in short, ladies and gentlemen, that we are determined to revitalize the operations of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation so that this legacy broadcasting entity can punch at its rightful weight in the marketplace. Moving to Postal Corporation of Kenya, this is another area of focus. We are very clear that the only way to revitalize the operations of Kenya, Postal Corporation of Kenya is to go the direction of e-commerce. And in this regard, ladies and gentlemen, we have embarked on an ambitious program of diversification of revenue streams for the Postal Corporation of Kenya, which have so far generated substantial amounts of money as a means of not just re-engineering the operations of that entity, but to inform the turnaround strategy for this giant corporation. So Posta, as we speak today, has managed to secure a working relationship with immigration. We are doing one-stop service from order to passport to tracking last-mile delivery of passports. We have also embarked on the process of ensuring that within the eCitizen portal, we'll have postal addresses and codes embedded therein to facilitate digitalization or digitization of postal records and digitalization of postal services. We have scaled up the services with other ministries, departments, and agencies. As we speak, we have managed to secure a 600 million logistics service arrangement with the IEBC. We have also managed to secure new contracts through our EMS, Expedited Mail Services, which has enabled us to increase the revenue threshold from 600 million in the last financial year to 900 million in the current year. And we have also embarked on last-mile delivery of medical supplies and facilities, ladies and gentlemen. And one aspect of this is the delivery of mosquito nets in collaboration with KEMSA, which is going to give us also an expected amount of 295 million shillings. So what we are saying in short, ladies and gentlemen, is that the direction we are going is to ensure that Posta pursues e-commerce. And we want to position Posta as the organization of choice in this regard. There's also been the issue of how Kenyans communicate with government. How do we leverage on technology to facilitate efficiency and effectiveness in interaction between members of the public and government? In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, again, proactively, consciously, and deliberately, we have decided to establish a national contact center. The National Contact Center will be a point from which citizens interact with the government across various channels. We are soon going to come up with a unique number which Kenyans can use to facilitate 24/7 and 365 days in a year availability to support citizens in seeking interaction with the government, including but not limited also to filing complaints with government and facilitating reception of those complaints with the relevant government agencies and ensuring that the feedback loop gets to the common citizen within the shortest time possible. And the piloting of this is already undergoing. The next thing is digitalization, digital signatures. If we have got services on technological platforms, we have commensurate level of skills, we have got the digital identity. We don't want a situation where government operations and services will be stalled through unnecessary bureaucracy because officers are not available in their offices, or staff have to physically visit government offices to consume government services, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we have embarked on the process of operationalizing digital signatures across all facets of government. All that we intend to do, whether it is on the ICT and digital economy side or on the broadcasting and telecommunication side, ladies and gentlemen, must be anchored on an enabling policy, legal, and regulatory framework. And in this regard, ladies and gentlemen, through a participatory approach, we have always stated that anything that we are going to do, we know the operational environment is not static, we'll continuously engage relevant stakeholders depending on emerging issues from time to time so that their integral views are integrated in the initiatives that we are going to take. And with a view to ensuring that what we are doing is anchored on a sound legal and policy frameworks, we have been having consultations with various stakeholder segments, relevant stakeholder segments, and we have embarked on major policy initiatives as follows. One, the national policy on public relations and communications management. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this policy is to professionalize information sharing between institutions and organizations and the public, to create a statutory self-regulatory mechanism through which this sector can regulate itself. And in this regard, we have developed the policy, we have submitted to Cabinet, is now waiting Cabinet approval in the not too distant future. The other policy is the National Addressing System, which I had alluded to earlier for purposes of facilitating e-commerce. Again, we have undertaken stakeholder engagement in this regard. Validation has been done. We are now progressing this to the next stage of Cabinet approval. The other policy is the National ICT Policy Guidelines 2020. We have presented this to Cabinet, and an integral component of this policy, ladies and gentlemen, is to amend or remove the 30% equity participation rule required for licensing of ICT service providers. We had got a requirement in the ICT policy guidelines that any investor in the ICT sector had to acquire a 30% local component before getting into the Kenyan market. This rule has been there on paper, but Kenyans have not been able to uptake 30% local component in these ICT companies. So it has not been useful. What has been happening is that tenderpreneurs have been creating unnecessary roadblocks on the path of private sectors who want to invest in the Kenyan space. Yeah? That you need to get 30% shareholding. Somebody does not want to put in money in the enterprise, but wants to be a director on paper. And we are saying we can't continue like this because this is scaring investors. The only leeway that we had was for those entities every year now to apply to the Cabinet Secretary to grant a waiver. We cannot continue like that, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm saying that no single individual in the name of a Cabinet Secretary, starting with myself, should have that discretionary power to decide whether or not a foreign investment company is going to continue operating in Kenya. We must anchor that in law, and in this regard, we have decided to waive that 30% requirement. Foreign companies can now invest in ICT sector without that roadblock. This has been approved by Cabinet, and we are now progressing for gazettement. The other issue is the access to information policy, ladies and gentlemen, and the objective here is to create a basis for implementation or operationalization of the Access to Information Act. This is before Cabinet waiting approval, which I believe will be done in the not too distant future. We also have standalone Cabinet memos, which we have managed to prepare based on consultations between our ministry, the National Treasury, and the Attorney General. They are now foolproof, and I'm happy to report that we are now progressing to forward to the Cabinet a Cabinet memo on the revitalization of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, and elaborate one at that. A Cabinet memo on the revitalization of the Postal Corporation of Kenya for purposes of sustainability, and a Cabinet memo on re-engineering of the government advertising agency. Again, when we get to that point as to how we are revitalizing these organizations, we will call you people, members of the Fourth Estate, again, and explain to you what we are doing, because we want to carry everybody along. We are also progressing with the Public Relations and Communication Management Bill, whose intention is to establish a legal framework to regulate the manner in which professionals conduct their practice. This is awaiting Cabinet approval. The public participation phase of it has already been undertaken. There is also the issue of the Kenya Information and Communication Act bill. Public participation is done. The bill is being refined for purposes of onward transmission to Cabinet. The ICTA bill. ICTA has been operating on the basis of a legal mandate. We are saying we need to, considering the fundamental mandate of ICTA, we want to anchor ICTA on a strong legal foundation. In fact, for purposes of clarity, even most of the digital infrastructure agenda that we are rolling out as a government is being undertaken by ICTA. So we want to anchor ICTA on a strong legal foundation, and therefore that is what has informed that bill. The bill is currently in the early stages of drafting, and we will be making progress in that regard. There is also the Kenya Information and Communication Act bill to ensure that the Act aligns to emerging issues in the operational environment. That bill has been formulated. The stakeholder engagement has been finalized. We are moving to the next stage. There is the National Addressing System of Kenya bill, which I alluded to earlier. Public participation is now complete. The KIMC bill, we also want to enhance the performance of the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication by ensuring that its operations is anchored on a sound legal foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, let me just explain to Kenyans what the end game looks like. Because it's not going to be business as usual, based on the initiatives that we are undertaking. One, we must prepare for a paperless government. We are not going to have any manual processes in government. Everything will be available on virtual platforms with a view to enhancing efficiency and effectiveness in service delivery. We are going to have a digital identity for all Kenyans to facilitate consumption of government services by Kenyans from the comfort of wherever they are. We are going to have e-signatures with a view again to enhancing the level of efficiency and effectiveness interaction between members of the public and the government. The net effect of all this, ladies and gentlemen, is that we will be able to, at macro level, bring in more Kenyans into gainful economic activity. We will be able to bring in more Kenyans, therefore, into the tax bracket. We will be able, as government, to collect more revenue, acquire or attain enhanced levels of domestically generated revenue so that we are able to service our external debt and have adequate surplus to facilitate both our current and development expenditure. In all this, ladies and gentlemen, as a ministry, we are working together with the industry and all integral stakeholders. We want to carry everybody on board. And I want to appeal to you, including members of the Fourth Estate, to help us augment efforts of government in effective realization of this digital transformation agenda. If we go in that direction, we should be able to position Kenya effectively as the ICT hub of Africa on one hand, and also on the global stage strategically by way of comparative advantage. Thank you very much. May God bless you. So maybe allow me, before we accept questions and answers, PS Tanui, can I call upon you to come and just give opportunity to a few stakeholders from the industry to also explain to us how they are plugging into what the ministry is doing. You remember I did state that we are adapting a whole industry approach. So just a few representatives. Thank you.
Thank you, our CS, for that elaborate communication on what we are doing in respect to connectivity, in respect to what we are doing on digitalization and our progress towards a paperless government. You've also touched on our ambition of building a digital businesses, e-commerce, and in communicating effectively. We will have a few members of the private sector who are working with us in this agenda to ensure that our commitments are realized. We are not working in isolation, and as CS also mentioned, in respect to ensuring our sector is secure, data protection, data privacy, and cybersecurity, we are also working with the private sector. We had engagement last week with all key technology companies, and we jointly issued statements. Our CS issued statements on that, and we are committed to make sure the sector remains vibrant and creates opportunities for jobs. CS, we have a number of players who are working with us in making this commitment a success, and we have registered service providers under the Communications Authority. We have what we call Tier 3 and Tier 4. We want to play the whole sector. We want to work with everybody in fulfillment of our agenda to bring connectivity, broadband connectivity to our people. So the first person I'll invite is one person representing the Tier 3 network operators. I'll invite Agnes Limo for a minute, and also I'll invite the CEO of Despoc, Fiona Asonga, where many members of that group are registered. Agnes Limo, 1 minute. Introduction and on behalf of the Tier 3.
The Cabinet Secretary, the PSs for ICT, all protocols observed. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Agnes Limo from Ecom Networks. We are a company that offers technology services here in Kenya. So on behalf of the Tier 3 providers, we are really grateful for the government and the efforts that they are doing to make sure that no one is left behind. I think we've had so many engagements so far, and it gives us a lot of hope. And it gives us a lot of hope that we are going to work together to just make sure that we achieve the objectives. Being Tier 3, we are so on the ground. We know actually what is happening, and we are grateful that we are going to really support the government. Thank you for the engagement with waiving the way leaves in terms of connection with the fiber. That will really boost us, and we're going to really make a lot of headway when we move there. A lot of the asks, I think we've already presented to you in most of the engagements, and we look forward to still getting feedback in terms of funding, because as you know, this technology space is very capital intensive, so that is one of the asks that we will be looking forward to get, how we are going to really partner, subsidize, commercialize all the infrastructure that the government currently has, and utilization of all the platforms that are out there. So we are eager and we are so hopeful that by the end of the next year again, there will be a lot of information that you're going to be reporting on the success that the Tier 3 providers will have provided. So thank you so much. We look forward to more engagements.
Thank you. Thank you, Agnes. We can have Fiona.
Morning, everybody. Buenos dias, the PSS of the Ministry of ICT and the Digital Economy, fellow CEOs, and the Fourth Estate, all protocols observed. Good morning again. I spoke on behalf of industry. Our focus within the digital economy has been pretty much to look at the digital infrastructure. And that is where we bring in all the service providers who are handling infrastructure issues, because we run the Kenya Internet Exchange Point that handles all the internet traffic for this country, and the service providers have agreed to run that jointly and to have a focal point where we are able to improve on the end users' experiences within the online platforms and online space, cyberspace. In as far as the government agenda is concerned in terms of digital economy, it has been remarkable to see the increase in the amount of traffic going through the internet exchange point. We have had a growth from 77 gigabytes of traffic to 1.1 terabytes of traffic, which translates to 1,218% growth of traffic at the exchange point. We have seen the likes of Vilcom, who's been here sharing her experience, increase in terms of traffic throughput, because they came in to support on the wireless hotspots, and that traffic from the wireless hotspot coming into the exchange point and being kept within the country is reflected at the exchange point when we see them moving from 1 gigabyte ports of traffic to 10 gig size ports of traffic. And that means that there is activity going on within the communities amongst the Kenyans that is pushing that content, because a lot of the content at the exchange point is really local content. We keep local traffic local. That has been our motto. That continues to be our motto. And I think I have a challenge to my colleague, Mr. Peter Ndegwa, because the small ISPs, what were considered the small startup ISPs that are coming in from the Tier 3 level, are now handling larger volumes of traffic than the large MNOs. So that means that there is something in our arrangement that is correct, that is right, and that is working for the service providers within the rural setup. So in as much as we're a rural country, we're seeing transformation within the digital space and seeing a lot of content and traffic coming in within those areas, especially where the hotspots have been set up. There is increase in uptake by Kenyans. Kenyans are thirsting for online content, and they are taking it, and they are using it, and they are benefiting from it. And this has seen them be able to take on more traffic and carry more traffic. And then there is also a new set of service providers that we are working on with the regulator to see how to fit them in. Communities are coming together and jointly building the last mile and owning it and offering themselves service. So they come in as a community and they buy wholesale from one of the larger providers, Safaricom, Liquid, JTL, whoever else is able to give them that connectivity. And then they, as a community, own the infrastructure, serve themselves, and make sure that they are connected. And we are calling this the community networks. There is a new license category for them that the regulator has developed, and we are beginning to see uptake within that space. So communities are also running with this agenda and trying to see how they can benefit, which means if the service providers sleep, Kenyans want to be online. They want to take that space. They want to get connected. And that means that we have to make sure that no matter how we deploy, no matter what strategic plans we are going to put out there, as individual service providers, We need to make sure that the opportunity that government is giving the Kenyans to get online is well addressed, the gaps are filled. And I like that the CS has been open enough to share where the gaps are and where the challenges are. And really the onus is on us, as the service providers in the space, to make sure that we can be innovative enough to fill those gaps. And we can be able to offer the service of infrastructure connectivity in better ways than we are doing. Our only ask will be that if you can, help us get commitment in writing from the county governments that will help with the rollout, because there's been a bit of discrepancy, and yet we know that you are driving a strong agenda for us, so can you help us with that? Otherwise, in as far as innovation is concerned, a lot of innovations being developed by young people out of Nairobi in their rural communities that are attracting fund investors for innovation, the venture capitalists, into our space, and these want to give funding to youth who are innovating platforms and applications that are value adds to our society, to our economic activity, to our social activities, things to do with management of health, being able to just help people within small communities have solutions that can monitor small things like high blood pressure, medication for HIV, and all these things that we need to do for our health systems. And there has been quite a number of support coming in, programs like Miradi from Mozilla that are coming in and giving funds to the youth to be able to deliver on these innovations that they deploy. So while we are doing all this, what are we doing to Kenya as a country? We are turning Kenya into a regional hub. And I'm happy that for the first time, in the so many years that I've been at TESPOC, we have the same agenda and the same clarion call between government and private sector, where we are saying Kenya has to be the hub for this continent, not just for the East African region, for the continent. The waiver of 30% shareholding has attracted so much interest. From where we sit as TESPOC, we are the first point of contact for knowledge on industry. We want to know about Kenya. We want to understand, can we invest, can we not? And the queries that have come through and interest that has come through has been amazing. And it is so high that I think our next level of engagement will be working with the regulator to see how do we ensure then that the system we have is not busting. We are able to contain. But we are happy that we are now the most attractive of all the ladies, if I can use that phrase, on the continent in terms of countries where an investor can think of coming in to invest. We have a good legal framework. We have a good regulatory framework. We have things that are working in our favor to make us the destination of choice for investors. There may be a few things we may need still to work on, but those are things that we will work on slowly because we grow with a few steps, and the first steps in this first year have been amazing, and congratulations to both government and industry on what we've been able to accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fiona. We are privileged also, we have the chairman of the ICT committee at the Council of Governors, the Elgeyo Marakwet Governor, Honorable Wesley Rotich. Welcome. So he will respond later to some of your comments. We want to bring all the players into this agenda, and TESPOC and the Tier 3, Tier 4 players are very important. We want to also attract investment to the sector. We want to grow opportunities for employment and also encourage more Kenyans to invest in this sector. As much as we are removing the 30% requirement for investors from outside, we are working on incentive framework that will support the Kenyan indigenous companies, especially employing high technology and investing in research and development and addressing some of our most challenging issues. We also have other players, our technology partners, and also our professionals in the sector. I'll invite now Grace Kidaika, who is the convener for Kenya ICT Network, KICTANET, and thereafter I'll have the technology partners, Oracle and Microsoft. Grace Kidaika, please.
Buenos Dias, captains of industry, honorable members of parliament, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Mwendwa Kivuva from Kiktanet. I'm representing Grace Kithaiga, who is the CEO and convener of Kenya ST Action Network, Kiktanet. Kiktanet is a multi-stakeholder platform that in the industry has been known to convene all the stakeholders. And we are very happy that the government, through the Ministry of ICT, has actually taken Article 10 of the Constitution very seriously, because Article 10 is the one which anchors public participation and also bringing other stakeholders together. So we have been able to walk through this journey that the CS has been showing us this today with all other players, that is academia, technical community, civil service, civil society, and also business. And we are really grateful, Bwana CS, for actually bringing all the other stakeholders together in this platform, because as you always say, Kenya belongs to all of us. At Kiktanet, we have been championing community internet networks, networks mashinani, where small players are able to anchor and to tap into the bigger ISPs to provide internet at the village level. So that's one component that we are helping with the 25,000 hotspots. So we have several small community networks we are supporting across the country, all the way from Kilifi to Kisumu. And finally, we have been very active in championing citizen cyber hygiene. Because if we take 25,000 hotspots across the country, you can imagine we have taken internet to the grassroots. And cyber hygiene, cyber security is a very big issue. You see, like the DDoS attack that was happening in Kenya, so many devices were not updated, and they are being used actually to do the DDoS on the different players within the country. Because the small players who have access to these devices are not updating, or they don't have enough information. Last year, we conducted a citizen cyber hygiene where we targeted and reached 3 million people through different players. We worked with Safaricom, ICT Authority, Ministry of ICT, and our development partners, FCDO, and the British government. And the ministry was actually very helpful in giving us access to all these players. So we are really grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kivuba. Thank you very much. We appreciate the role Kiktanet plays in the sector and the many advisories they give, the role they engage in engaging the stakeholders. Now we want to invite our technology partners, starting with Oracle, David Pune, the country manager, and after that we have Africa Development Center of Microsoft, Catherine, to join.
Thank you. I can use this. CS, Minister of ICT and Digital Economy, the PSS here, the industry leaders, good morning. It's a really great morning to be present here today. I think it's exciting to see the scorecard presented by the CS this morning. And as industry technology partners, I think we've seen great progress over the last 1 year in terms of your partnership, in terms of your engagement, and more importantly, the collaboration. I'm here as a country leader for Oracle, but I represent a number of other technology partners that are in this country. And we've seen the transformation. We've seen the change. And suddenly, no doubt, if we maintain this pace, the leadership that we have in the region will continue, but not only the region, but Africa. Last week, with the incidents that happened, the industry leaders in partnership with the government met together, we deliberated, and did come up with a plan on how we can support government to continue as they digitize. The cyber threat is contained and managed. And as you may be aware, the cyber threat is really a global challenge. It's not only a local challenge. private and public and governments all over the world are always a target of cyber attacks. And as we continue to digitize and as we continue to expand our digital footprint, we become the center of attention. We also will increase the attack service. So basically, as you take the connectivity to the village or you connect the connectivity to across the country, that increases the overall attack space. And that means we need to up our response, our engagement, our investment in cybersecurity, but also our skills. So it's in these areas that we will be partnering and continuing to engage with government and collaborate to ensure in all these areas, including really building a strong cybersecurity framework, enabling education and upskilling of users. We do believe as an industry we have a part to play, and we will support the government in this journey. And no doubt with the success of the technology expansion, the citizens will reap the benefit of the investment. So thank you very much for your continued partnership, and we're here to support you, and as industry technology partners, we will commit to supporting the government. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and we appreciate the entire technology partners. We've agreed to have quarterly roundtable discussions so that we address our issues as a sector and that every player to do their part of the task. Now we want to invite the CEO of Airtel Kenya, Mr. Ashish, please come.
Honorable CS, ICT and Digital Economy, PS present, captains of the industry, all protocols observed. Very good morning to all of you. First of all, let me start by congratulating and complimenting CS and his entire team for a remarkable year and a first-year scorecard. The pace at which the transformation is happening is within the mandate set for the ICT sector is truly remarkable, sir, and heartiest congratulations for the first year. From an Airtel, I represent Airtel Kenya, and to further promote the vision of the country, that is to promote the digitally empowered Kenyan society, we've been investing heavily within the country. We've almost doubled our network. Almost all our sites are 4G and 100% 4G network. We've also invested in 5G technology in the recent past. We also launched the program of Internet Mashinani across the country, where we're giving affordable internet access to our Mashinanis and the rural segment of the society. We have been also working very hard with the government bodies on the e-citizen, sir, and we've added almost integrated with about 500 services and adding more and more services every day. We're also working with the government on the Gawa Maknoni program. And with respect to agenda of the fiber expansion, we're adding another 20% over our current infrastructure in the coming year, 1,400 sites, 1,400 kilometers to be added in the coming year. So the last year has been a very remarkable year. We thank you for all your support, and our assurance is that we continue to support all the agendas and keep on providing more and more affordable services. We are a core part of the country, providing the basic connectivity, and we continue to support your agendas and hail you all for the great work which is happening, and thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you, CEO. Now I invite the CEO of Safaricom Limited, Peter Ndekwa. Welcome.
Need to make sure I'm safe. No, it's okay. So CS, ICT, and all protocols observed, good morning. Goodness. Good morning, everyone. Habari asubuhi. So first, I want to start by acknowledging the work that the Ministry of ICT, which is our primary ministry, we work with as Safaricom, which is the leading telecommunication, but also financial services or fintech provider. We work with the ICT Ministry as our primary regulator. So I have to behave today, given that I have my regulators in the room. But I want to acknowledge the ministry, but also we work with the Treasury, and the Central Bank, given that we have mobile financial services. I want to acknowledge you, CS, for the partnership. We are both a partner to the government and also the private sector, but also a service provider. A lot of people in this room who have already mentioned the way we work together. So I'll mention 4 things. One is our primary objective is to deliver connectivity, both mobile and fixed, whether that is at home, in the offices. We have just over 6,500 sites across the country, all of which are 4G enabled. 3 years ago, we had only 50% 4G coverage in the country. Now, most of those sites are actually 4G enabled. It means that connectivity from an internet perspective is at least smart, at smart level. And the second thing, and as my colleague from Airtel has said, or our counterpart, we are also rolling out 5G. We'll have just over 800 sites by the end of this calendar year. We're going to put another 1,000 in the next couple of years so that we have significant connectivity on the mobile side. On the fixed side, we play a very important role. Today we have 250,000 connections at home. We have just over 4,000 offices. We are planning to double that in the next 2 years to ensure that connectivity goes beyond mobile, because fixed is important as people work from home and also to support the government agenda in terms of using fiber as an infrastructure that allows the country to digitize into the future. The second aspect is once you have connectivity, you need devices. You need affordable devices. You need smart devices. We still have about 15 million Kenyans who are only 2G devices ready today. So you have 2 elements that we are working on together with industry, as the minister mentioned. We are working to see how we can avail affordable devices that are locally assembled, which will allow us to have easily accessible devices here, but also continue to employ people, and in future probably become the hub for exports into the region as we expand regionally. The second is to ensure that we offer devices on a pay-as-you-go basis. So we have what we call Lipa Mdogo Mdogo. There's a lot of partners who are financiers who are interested in supporting that. So we are recruiting a set of those partners to allow us to broaden the ability of customers to access devices that are affordable on a pay-as-you-go basis rather than paying upfront. Then, of course, the third thing is to support the government agenda in terms of digitization, which we have been involved in a very significant way, both on the fintech side. We have been partners with government and other stakeholders in the room and from outside the room on Hustler Fund, as you know, on Women Enterprise Fund, on the whole fertilizer e-subsidy. We are the platform provider for government on that front. But in addition to that, we are also working with various ministries, both at a national level, but also county governments in terms of supporting the whole digitization agenda. You'll have heard about My County app, which will be the primary access point for counties in enabling their citizens, each of the county citizens, to access services at a county level, whether you are paying rent, you are paying parking fees, and so on and so forth. But also as technology platforms for the county to actually be able to interact on a regular basis with the citizens. And of course, various ministries in supporting them to digitize and actually provide services going forward. And then the fourth thing is we continue to invest ahead of the curve to ensure both our connectivity infrastructure, our fintech infrastructure, our channels that allow our customers or our public to access these services at the right level, but also to invest in some of the technologies in the future Internet of Things is important as we connect devices, whether that, especially for utilities, working with utilities companies like water companies, or actually ICT solutions that allow for data to be stored in the right way, to be housed, to be platforms to actually speak to each other. And of course, thinking about the future of technology, including 5G and others. So we continue to invest ahead and to ensure that someone mentioned here, no one is left behind. We work with the ministry in particular, even in places where it is not commercially viable, to invest in connectivity through the USF fund that allow locations from across the country to access connectivity, even where it's not commercially viable, through the work that is housed within the USF. So we're happy to be here at CS. We're happy to support this agenda, and we'll continue to be involved going forward. And all the very best, and looking forward to be a compliant provider of services in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. We invite now the CEO of JTL, CK Joshua.
Good morning, everyone. Our host, the Cabinet Secretary, Bwana Towalo, our friend, PS Engineer John Tanui, PS Professor Kishenkani for Telecom and Broadcasting, our Director General, Jiloba, Cabinet Secretary Malala, the Governor for Elgeyo Marakwet, EMC, Wilson, Wesley. Welcome, and whole protocol observed. I'm not going to deal with so many things that our captain of industries have said, but I would like to focus on areas where we think. First and foremost, we want to congratulate you for what you have done in the first 1 year. And you are the most transparent organization in the government of Kenya today in terms of what you are doing. And you are dialoguing with stakeholders, and you are inviting all of us. The issues that the digital transformation of this country will be enabled by participation of all of us, including the citizens of this country. For us who have been here for a very long time, particularly in the private sector, we've seen a lot of transformation from policy changes and so forth, and we think this is the right company, the right organization, and the right time for the country to transform itself into a digital environment. There will be various requirements, and there are certain incentives that we want to require you to incorporate in policies. For example, issues of classification of infrastructure as critical infrastructure utility. It's a must. We are over-depending on the systems. I think Ndegwa did not want to mention that. He left it to me because maybe I'm the one who has been evangelizing for all these years that we need to classify telecommunication infrastructure as critical infrastructure. We have a challenge. We have various fiber cuts. We are talking about rolling fiber, but we have also a lot of fiber cut, which we, today, almost every organization, we are taking more than almost 30% of their expenditure in terms of maintaining infrastructure. It's a big problem. Two, we would like also to look at frequency. If we are talking about depending on digital, I think there should be a review of digital frequencies downwards, particularly the initial frequencies, and possibly also for the microwave links, because we are going rural, we want to go Kenyan, so there should be incentive in terms of reviewing frequency costs downwards. The other thing that we want to do, as you open the sector, particularly on the 30%, the whole objective of 30% was to allow Kenyans, ordinary Kenyans through the stock exchange, to buy shares. Unfortunately, that has not happened. You should also look at incentive. What incentive are you going to give the local companies so that they can also invest? Because at the end of the day, the critical resource in the telecom sector is the spectrum, which is God-given, and the people of Kenya. So at the end of it is this. Certain sectors in our ICT industry will have an opportunity not even to employ Kenyans. They can put data centers here and employ guys in India. I'm no problem with India, or run it from wherever they are. So let's make sure that we balance the approach in terms of how you're crafting that policy. Open it up, but give also incentive to the local people so that they can have an advantage also to compete, because at the end of the day, you are exporting money. You've got to make sure that the money is retained also in the country to generate employment for our citizens. So there should be some balance. I accept that let's open it up, but at the same time, let's also graft an incentive, a positive incentive to support local companies so that they can rise up tomorrow also to be in the stock exchange, just like Safaricom has done. Mr. Minister, you know, we are in partnership. We had a serious partnership with government in 2008 when we put up the undersea cable. It was the most successful project PPP in the country. I think it was one of the first. I believe in the partnership we have today in the ICT industry, we'll be able to drive this nation to the next level. For example, we have talked of smartphones. I think we, as an industry, soon will be launching the devices. And I think that is a one way of guaranteeing superhighway. Because in absence of superhighway, in absence of the, what we call the hotspots and so forth, Kenyans have been questioning the question of saying, I don't have devices to access this service. As we move to digital, critically, the last bottleneck will be smartphone affordability. A smartphone that is affordable in order to allow citizens to be able to enjoy government services at their convenience. So this country has a future. This opportunity in ICT cannot be compared to anything, but it is the transformation that will transform this country to the next level. And we believe that we in the private sector, as we are investing our money and borrowing money and investing, it is because we believe in the cause that it will be able to transform, create opportunities and create wealth for this country and empower the citizens of this country to be able to compare themselves with anywhere in the world. And we are very competent. In the lead of a fintech environment by M-Pesa is one of its unique in the world, but I hope we'll want also to see the country to develop. Content is another area that you need to focus in your policy encouragement so that we can be able not to be only exporting, but create exports also from this country. For example, monetization of TikToks and so forth, those are opportunities that can create fellow Kenyans to create jobs, because today, that is where the world is going. The consumption of cultures, you can imagine recently the Zambian lady doing stories on Zambia on Netflix. We want to see more Kenyan stories on Netflix. I think that is the way we can say, but all in all, thank you very much for what you have done with your ministry. Thank for the government for what they are doing in terms of being very positive in policy. And we know we'll be able to make a gigantic step in this country, because I speak on behalf of the whole industry. I didn't want to preach myself about what Jamii is doing. We do fiber, you know us. I don't need to say it. Nanjisi ni mbugwa, ni fiber. So with those few remarks, ladies and gentlemen, God bless you and thank you. And we look forward that in the coming years, we need to have a national conference where we'll discuss about technological impact like AI and so forth, so that we can prepare our country to be ready to compete. Issues of DDoS and so forth, these are the challenges of cyber security, which is a continuous thing that is being managed by our systems continuously, not something new. It might have only happened, but it's something that we are all cognizant, and our systems are compliant, and we believe that it is something that is going to be manageable in the long run. With those few remarks, God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua, and all the other stakeholders, the leaders of our technology companies, Airtel, Safaricom, the Tier 3. We commit to work with you in this journey. As request made, we will have more forums where we will be able to engage each other and work together as one. Now it's my pleasure to invite the chairman of the Council of Governors ICT Committee, Honorable Wesley Rotich. Welcome.
Thank you very much, our PS. Our Cabinet Secretary, Eliud Owalo, our PSS, both from broadcasting, and my friend engineer, industry players, all protocols observed. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the Minister of ICT and Digital Economy for the good work that you've done for this past 1 year. I want to say that I was lucky to be part of those who actually sat down crafting the bottom-up economic model, and CS Owalo was part of that team. I never knew that when you become part of the planning, it is easier during execution. And that is why probably our CS and his team are actually doing a tremendous job. I want to appreciate you for one thing, that you have actually not closed yourself in a silo or in an ivory tower and expect things to move. I want to congratulate you for actually having the whole industry approach. And as the Devolution family, we want to say we are with you in this totally, and we support you entirely to ensure that you transform. I chose to be a chair of ICT at the Council of Governors for 2 or 3 reasons. First reason was I'm among those young leaders in this country who are actually sympathizing with the challenges of the young people in this country. And there was no other easiest way to expose our young people to jobs other than the digital economy. And that is why I'm one of those who campaigned. From my first day in office, I campaigned against charging of way leaves for actually fiber, for laying fiber, for simple reason. In Elgeyo Marakwet, I can charge you for way leaves and earn 1 million shillings a year in revenue. But I'm denying a total of almost 100,000 young people an opportunity to work online. How selfish can I be as a leader to follow 1 million, which is not even enough to lay a kilometer of water pipeline? It is better to look at the economies, actually the alternative of that it was going to give us more money. So I want to appreciate and tell you that at the council, I'm still campaigning. I have a few colleagues I'm almost finishing up with, and in the next few days, we should be having a communication from the Council of Governors, actually officially telling you it is free. But for example, Elgeyo Marakwet County, it is free because I'm the governor of that county, so that we can be able to transform those things. Secondly, I want to say that CS, your role, and I want to appreciate you for understanding that, which I think many CSs and many government institutions have not known. Private sector can actually, you can actually leave private sector to run this country. You only need to give the enabling environment. I think you have known your job, Bwana CS, because you go to other ministries, people want to hold everything and you cannot do it. What you do, the best is you open up, you will run much faster than when you are doing it alone. So I want to appreciate you for that and your PSS for that work. There are a few challenges that we want to request is that as we lay the infrastructure, I'm trying to think of speed we are going to ensure that we have infrastructure is very high. We should have a complementing pumping of our young people who are going to uptake this. And our age, the 25 years and above people, may not be the right people at this point. I want to request you that, if possible, you talk to KICD. We want to start manufacturing ICT funds from high school, from primary school, so that in the next few years, we will be having people who will not be having a challenge. My only challenge is when you train these ICT people, they are just like police officers. A police officer can be a protector of life and can actually exterminate a population. The same way an ICT expert can be a very good person to help us, and if it turns out to be the other guy, he will actually destroy us. But I think we have no choice as a country. We have to go this route. The challenges actually are not much compared to the opportunities that are in the ICT sector. So we look at the best things that come out of ICT, the recent challenges that were coming. CS, we are warning to you. It shows that we are actually on the right path as a country. Probably I was suspecting 2 people who might have engineered this attack. Number one is people who are not happy in the speed in which Kenya is going in terms of digitalization. And secondly, even inside government, there are people who are not happy. When you say you want to put everything, I am in government and I've seen. In government, the worst people who actually can sabotage you are your own people. Probably those you sit together every day. Because they don't want you to digitalize, because digitalization closes some pipes that people have been using for decades. So don't be scared with these small challenges. They're always there, and they're here to strengthen us as a nation to ensure that we actually do our best. There is only one thing I wanted to request in terms of to all our sector, is that I want us to mainstream. Anyone who is in this space, I don't want you to be so, ICT is well-paying. It's a well-paying industry, Peter. It's a well-paying industry. I know you'll not agree with me because you don't want people, Kenyans are very difficult people. They don't want to be, their stores to be known. Even a small village person will tell you, I have nothing today, I have nothing completely, yet he has 10 bags of maize in the store. I want to request that, can we make it a tradition in all our companies, industries, that you can actually have a small CSR towards our young people. It can be even in training. You can even go to my county today and say, I want to have all the young people of this county, I can buy lunch, I want to expose them to digital economy space. Actually, you are creating market for yourself unknowingly, but we want to have it as a CSR, because there are so many things you guys are doing, but our young people don't know, especially on the online digital jobs. I'm requesting you in all humility. You can even take a primary school in the remotest part of the country, take 10 devices and take an internet device there, and trust me, you are going to change this country together much faster. Otherwise, with all those many remarks, Bwana CS, I want to congratulate you, and so long, for as long as I'm still the chair of ICT, to all of you here, if there is any dirty job you want me to do at the Council of Governors to ensure that my colleagues accept digitalization, please tell me. I'll do it all night, all day to ensure that you guys succeed in the ICT sector. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Chairman, Honorable Wesley Rotich, and we...
I forgot something, and it's very critical. Currently, we have a police unit which actually protects water sources and water infrastructure. The reason why is, if someone was to go to a water intake today and poison the Nairobi water source, you can imagine what will happen to all of us in Nairobi, right? It is the same way we are digitalizing 5,000 services, and someone cuts the fiber. It will mean you are going to cripple. I'm requesting you, CS, with all humility, take to cabinet and ensure that we categorize fiber as a critical infrastructure, just like the KPLC poles and the water now, so that we can be able to protect these people and our investors and even our services that we offer in our offices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor. And thank you for taking the lead. We're looking forward to getting that communication from the Council of Governors. To take us to the next stage, I want to invite Professor George Nyambunga, the representative of the Editors Guild, to make some remarks. Welcome, Prof.
Buenos dias, Ministry of Information and Communication and Digital Economy, and everybody here. It's always a pleasure to be part of these conversations. And I'm here representing the president of the Kenya Editors Guild, who unfortunately couldn't make it here. And I'm going to read what she asked me to prepare. So the words are mine, but it is her message, in other words. Of course, Buenos Dias and everybody here, we work very closely with the government to advance the public agenda. And this is oftentimes born out of the fact that the media is critical in the provision of information and the space to articulate issues that concern the public. The ability of the media to communicate and help the people and the public, of course, understand the scorecard, the issues that you have clearly articulated here, often lies with the media. But unfortunately, we are seeing an increasing attempt by some in society to put a wedge between the media and the government and, of course, the other actors that we have in society. And this is the reason why we always ask the government, and Bwana CS, you've attended some of our meetings, we've had meetings with your other colleagues from government, to try and ask you to protect the media space and to ensure that journalists and the media continue to serve public interest without harassment and intimidation. Of course, we've seen the recent case of police masquerading as journalists, and that threatens the media and threatens the journalists and puts especially the lives of those that are at the forefront of collecting and disseminating information in danger. This, of course, does not portend well for the place of the media in society and the relationship between the government and ourselves as the media. We hope that this will be addressed urgently, of course, as part of advancing media freedom and the relationship between government and the media. It would help, one thing that we've been talking about, we released the report done by the task force on the improvement of government information and public communication, chaired by one of our members, David Makali. Would like to know what that report contains, and of course the issues that would address. One other key thing that we often ask is that there is fair use of media content, especially by technology companies. Media financial sustainability is a big issue at the moment, and the media is, of course, facing existential challenges. We should push as a country, and the PS, you've been at the forefront of doing this, we should push as a country to ensure that the big technology companies pay a fair share of the use of that media content. We are happy that the government is setting up digital hubs and keen to provide the Wi-Fi hotspots. I think that is a key milestone in this government. This would undoubtedly enhance the internet penetration, which is fundamentally important to the access of information. And this will promote access, of course, to media and journalism, while it's helping Kenyans connect with the rest of the world and hopefully utilize those technologies to produce content that is relevant and useful. And I think as the CEO of JTL has pointed out here, there are so many technologies, there are so many opportunities, but I think without maybe building the capacity of the young people to produce useful and palatable content, this resource will go to waste. We're happy that the government is keen on revitalizing KBC, and this is key, of course, to that public resource, that public institution, and as long as, of course, the support and the revitalization of that goes along with the kind of branding that is necessary to enhance the public perception of KBC as a public broadcaster. We cannot run away from the fact that KBC has for a long time been seen as a mouthpiece of government, and I'm happy that you're moving away from that perception, and would like to see a strong KBC because that belongs to us. Thank you very much. Once again, we are partners in this, and we like to, of course, offer a lot more space for you to articulate the issues that you've articulated here, to ensure that that scorecard means a lot to society and that people understand that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Indeed, we are partners, and we are committed from the government side. We have our colleagues, the heads of the agencies who are here. They will be able to respond to your questions later on with my colleague, PS Kisiangani. But for now, I want to invite our CS Park here for a few remarks and to invite one of our key guests who is here today. Welcome, Wasiri.
Thanks, PS, for facilitating that session. As you are aware, government is formed through a political process, and our party, on the basis of which, whose policy is the basis of which all government policies is anchored, is the UDA party. And therefore, I'm glad to report that we have within our midst the Secretary General of the UDA party, Cleophas Malala, who is also a colleague in cabinet by virtue of that position. So let me invite him to make a few remarks because of that nexus.
Bwana CS, you don't have to over-explain about you being in UDA. Bwana CS, I've pensively been listening to your presentation and the feedback from the private sector, and I must admit with all honesty that you've done a marvelous job. And from where I sit, you know very well that the Secretary General of the ruling party have been mandated to monitor the implementation of the promises we made during campaign as a party and as a coalition. And from where I sit, I must say that you're doing very well. I have been monitoring the promises that we made, and you have been practically been implementing those promises to the latter. Bwana CS, I have one issue that we need to actually, and I think this is basically mandated in your domain, the issue of dissemination of relevant information as pertains government policies and government projects. Bwana CS, we've been having a gap with our government communicating what it's doing. We have a lot of projects that the government is doing, impacting positively to the society, but the communication has been missing. I think this is a result of you not taking up that role of disseminating government information, not only in your ministry, but also other ministries. I would like to urge you, Bwana CS, to expedite on the recruitment of a government spokesperson, because we do not have a government spokesperson who will be disseminating relevant information as pertains this ministry. I would like to request you, Bwana CS, I've seen you appointing acting CEOs, acting MDs. Why don't you get somebody in the meantime to maybe play that role of disseminating government information as you recruit a government spokesperson? Second, Bwana CS, I want to congratulate you for having this session. This is a way of being transparent, a way of being accountable to your work. And as a party, we are also going to release and publish our status report, our one-year status report across all ministries, and just give feedback to the public, general public, as to what our party members, to what Kenyans feel about different ministries. And I don't want to say fortunately or unfortunately, we shall be giving feedback and even giving rankings of different ministerial portfolios so that Kenyans know which ministry is performing better than the other ones and which ministry requires improvement. So in a month's time, we shall be releasing that report. But from the continuous assessment tests results, I think your ministry is performing well. So from the CATS results, I think, so if you are performing well in the continuous assessment test, you are assured that in the end year exam, you will be ranking well. Otherwise, thank you so much. Kindly, Bwana CS, our government, and this is the true position, has been having a somehow a wavy relationship with the media. We want to ask you, since this is in your domain, kindly try and mend the relationship between government and the media. It is in the same breath that I would like to request the media to also help government communicate hope. Let media also help Kenya have hope, because when I see us tomorrow, I'll expect that from what you've told us today here, you should be on the headline, that the headline should be Owalo's performance. But I can assure you, tomorrow's headline will be the bilateral talks collapse as a cloud of doom hangs precariously above Kenya. So Bwana CS, kindly talk to these media people to also preach hope, and help government preach hope, and so that we move together as a country. Otherwise, asante sana, you are doing very well, and on behalf of the hustlers, congratulations. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Bwana Malala. We have agreed with the media that tomorrow's headline will be on our digital scorecard. So don't panic. Okay, maybe we respond to a few issues. Let me respond to a few issues, and then after that we can take questions. One, on the critical infrastructure bill, it is work in progress, and it's a joint effort between us and the Ministry of Interior. That's the comfort I want to give the stakeholders, that we are alive to the fact that fiber optic cable needs to be classified as critical infrastructure. So that is work in progress. On the issue which has been raised by both Cleophas Malala and Professor, let me state that the role of government is not to muzzle the media or to infringe on the rights of the media, and the government in no way has such intentions. We view the media as an integral partner in everything that we are doing. Pushing the message to the public, being an advocate on behalf of the public, also oversighting government and giving us free feedback on what we are doing as government. We will continue in that regard. We believe the media has got its own internal mechanisms for self-regulation, and we hold that in regard, and we recognize that the media needs to continue exercising its mandate without any interference from government, but also within the confines of the law, of course. What we are asking for is objectivity on the side of the media, for the good of the Kenyan public. At no point in time have we had intention, before, today, or in the future as government, to go to bed with the media to the detriment of the interests of any other stakeholders. Continue exercising your mandate. We will also continue exercising our mandate. We are partners in this process. But the cardinal principle on the basis of which all this is anchored is that both parties have got a responsibility to exercise their mandates while taking into cognizance the interests of the Kenyan public. That is our position from where we sit as government, and we will continue in that regard. May I now invite questions, starting with members of the press. Any questions that you want us to respond to? Yes.
So kindly state your name and which media house.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Brian Jojotino from NTV. Apologies, I have a bit of a cold, so I'll remain masked up, but I hope I am audible enough. Number one, I'm curious on the verification of these digital signatures. As you mentioned that you rightly want to have as many citizens access government services, but sometimes you find the government officers are not there. But then there is the issue of verification of those certificates. How do you plan to make sure that the rightful signatures are the ones that are put out? Question number two, in again giving hope, as said rightly by SG Malala, we've had good things about KBC and the plans that the government has for KBC, and I'm smiling while saying this. What incentives are there for the private media, particularly NTV? I think in the spirit of giving hope, as SG Malala says, yeah, and my lecturer, Prof, has spoken about it. My master's lecturer is there. Last but not least, I'm curious to the incentive for the production of these smartphones that are going to retail for no more than $40. What kind of incentive is there, particularly to compete with the existing units that are being provided by other competitors like Transsion, which own, I think, Techno, Oppo, and the others? Thank you.
Good. Can we be responding as and when the questions come? Take a number. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Faisal Ahmed from Citizen.
Speak louder. Speak louder.
Yes, my name is Faisal Ahmed from Citizen TV.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions. The first one is just building off of what Brian's last question on the incentives for the smartphones. Looking at where we're headed towards 5G and better internet connectivity. And for $40, are those smartphones that the government is going to be producing capable of such speeds, or what sort of features will they have to also ensure that Kenyans will be procuring them will be in a position to access the internet much faster and at a better rate? And the second question is on the issue you spoke about on the attempted hacking of the eCitizen portal. We've seen ransomware become more rampant. Maybe what sort of measures have you put in place to safeguard not only critical government infrastructure like eCitizen, but also ensuring and giving hope to the private sector that such incidences will not occur? Because looking at the trends that have been happening over the last 3-4 months, we've seen a few institutions getting hacked. Maybe what sort of measures have you put in place to ensure that this does not happen again?
Good.
Over to you, CS.
Can we take those? Okay, fine. I'll respond to the issue on what we have done to also make sure that the private sector thrives. Okay, now let me put it this way. The role of government is to create an enabling policy, legal, and regulatory framework to enable the private sector thrive. Just in the same way that we are asking KBC to reorient its business model to survive in the current operational environment, we also want to appeal to other media houses to also re-engineer their processes and business model to be in line with what is taking place in the operational environment. You cannot be static. We cannot continue doing business as usual in the current phase of digitalization, and yet you expect to remain relevant. That is not possible. That is why even us as government, we have embarked on this digital transformation agenda, because we have realized that it cannot be business as usual. We cannot continue doing business the way we have been undertaking it in the past in the current phase of digitalization. So as much as we are engineering the operations of KBC in response to emerging issues in the operational environment, I also want to appeal to other private sector players in that space to also reorient their business models. That is the only way you are going to survive and remain relevant in the marketplace. Strategic ability, agility, and maneuverability is the critical success factor. There are no two ways about it. And that is applicable to all of us, the private sector inclusive. I'll ask PS Tanui to come and respond to the question on digital signatures. Please come. And also on the cybersecurity?
In respect to digital signatures, there are two components. The regulatory component about it, registration, who should offer signatures, and that component is already in place. Our communications authority registers stakeholders in that area, and entities can now utilize those signatures. So technically, the solutions are in place, regulatory framework are in place. So with those two, we are sure the country can now adopt the digital signatures. The second issue, there was also a question about what are we putting in place on the cybersecurity. As a country, as we digitize, the most important thing we need to address is the skill capabilities within our country. And this is a message to all our businesses, the SMEs, the medium, and even the large organization, is to embark on awareness on cybersecurity issues. That's the first defense we need to have in place as a country. Secondly is to relook at our organizational structure. The way we've had in the past, we had a person responsible for security, which largely focused on the physical security. For now, we need to relook that we'll have a person responsible for ICT, a person responsible for cybersecurity, a person responsible for data protection and data privacy. As a government, we are working with the structures we have. We have a center for incidents reporting, and we are also working on establishing what we call a national SOC, and we have a national coordination platform that brings all our agencies, multi-agencies to address these issues. So we have secure programs in place, but because of the dynamic nature of the area, you'll be seeing deployment of new tools, new solutions, and new structures to address this emerging issue. Thank you.
Okay, the other question on incentives to the telecos with a view to facilitating an enabling environment for the cheap, smart, enabled phone. DG Chiloba and Dr. Kibet, come and respond to this question. Some of them have got fiscal implications, others have got legal and regulatory implications. Come and do the justice to this question, the two of you. Chap, chap.
Buenos Dias, maybe to just start also with the issue of the digital signatures, I think being important. PS Tonu has just mentioned about the regulatory role that the CA plays when it comes to digital signatures. It falls under the category we call the National Public Key Infrastructure. And as we speak, on the government side, ICTA has been given the license to deploy the government digital signature. And if you remember, during the launch of the e-citizen services by the president, he actually signed, authorized that executive memo using the digital signature, which means that now government actually can proceed to do that. And on the private sector side, we issue licenses to what we call electronic digital service providers. And as we speak now, we have 6 in the country. So when it comes to authentication, that signature is actually globally recognized. And I would want to encourage the country that this is the time to get in the digital space. When it comes to issues of smart devices and the incentives being provided, one is that we are keen as a regulator, but at the same time, the administrator of the Universal Service Fund, to ensure that we have access to smart-enabled devices for every citizen wherever they are. And as we look at the market trends, we're exploring the different means and ways through which we can enable the private sector to access incentives that are appropriate for them to be able to manufacture or assemble smart devices. And this starts from the tax regime that is being provided by government. And I think under the Finance Act, there's already an element that touches on incentives towards ensuring that local assembly of smart devices is enabled. The second bit is exploring ways through which we can use the Universal Service Fund to enable citizens to actually access this. There are different ways we're exploring at the moment, looking at the options. There are those who think that we need to issue grants. Others think that we may need to have small loans and subsidies around that particular framework. And those are the issues we're exploring. Are we going to provide, for example, grants? Are we going to provide loans? And how do we make it sustainable? And who should actually be the beneficiary of the outcome of this intervention from the Universal Service Fund? So, Buenos Dias, that's what I wish to say. Thank you.
I think even before he exits, Bwana Chiloba, there was the question that has been posed is about the competition that is likely to be posed between our smartphones and the established ones like Oppo and so on. I think that goes a long way in explaining what the focus of this government is. When we think about smart-enabled phones, the focus is on the bottom of the pyramid. We are looking at people who would never, any other time, afford these smartphones. And that means that they can also access services at certain levels. We can keep upgrading, but our focus is not those people who can afford the Oppo, the Samsung, the big phones that can pick a lot of data, but the ones that are at the bottom who may just want to transact money movement from one source to another, or call somebody and say, you know, I'm paying this and this, or ask about the prices of certain things that they want to sell. This is the group that we are targeting, which is at the bottom of our pyramid, and it speaks to our plan, which is the bottom-up economic strategy. Thank you.
Dr. Kibet, anything, any additions from a legal perspective? Or? No, none. There is the other question which was raised, I think, by my cabinet colleague Malala on the issue of the government spokesman. I'm happy to report that that exercise is at the tail end, yeah, through a competitive process. Of course, it is being undertaken by the Public Service Commission. It's at the tail end, and perhaps in another 2 weeks at most, we should be having a capable and competent government spokesman who can meticulously execute the mandate of that office. Unless you have something to add, PS, this is your domain.
Actually, I'm the government spokesperson. So I'm doing the job now, but we shall have a government spokesperson shortly, as the CS has put to us. I think there were certain delays, technical delays here and there, which were internal and which we have addressed, because we want the process to be fair and we want to get the best. So there is no need for panic. We are going to get a government spokesperson who is competent enough to do the job. Thank you very much.
I think it's good just to be clear that it's actually, we had embarked on this process earlier, but it stalled midstream because we didn't get somebody from among the Kenyans who applied for the job who was competent to do the job. That is the truth of the matter. So we asked Public Service Commission to go back and get fresh applications from Kenyans. So let's hope that this time we are going to get somebody who is competent. Because it's not just a question of filling the position. It's a question of getting somebody who is going to deliver on that mandate on behalf of government. Any other question? Can we pick other questions? Why are the ladies not asking any questions? Huh? Yeah, there's a question there. Yeah.
My name is Willie Lusige from KTN. I have 3 questions.
Speak louder.
My name is Willie Lusige from KTN. I have 3 questions. The first question was here. We have seen Kenyans still losing millions of money through use of mobile phone, where they are called either by people using strange numbers or unregistered numbers, and they have lost their money. If you check on different mobile providers such as Safaricom, you'll see Kenyans complaining about that. But we are aware that the Communication Authority had put measures in place last year where Kenyans were required to register with all the required documents. The process was underway, but at some point it was not complete. So what's the government making sure that those people who are using mobile phones, the numbers are registered and to curb the loss of money? And then number 2 is the question about, we have seen the ministry has a lot of projects that is implementing, including 25,000 hotspots, which I was lucky to be part of the team that covered you during the first launch of the City Market hotspot. But after a week, it wasn't working. And I'm lucky to be eating there on a daily basis because I'm a common mananchi and the Wi-Fi is not working. So what is the ministry doing to make sure that all these infrastructures that you're putting in place are working and well maintained? And the last question is about the shift from Huduma number to the unique personal identifier, the new Huduma number in quotes. Kenyans are also concerned that they lost approximately more than 7 billion shillings during the last Huduma number. This is also a similar kind of a number, but with more better benefits. So what is the ministry doing to make sure that you don't repeat the same mistake, so that after a few years, we lose also more billions in another unique identifier number?
Can we respond?
I think you'll take those ones. There is no lady who is asking any question.
Okay, fine. Now, on the issue of the unique personal identifier, let me state that any mistakes that have been made in the past should not deter us from pursuing noble objectives. We should look at the issue of the digital identity from a conceptual perspective. The question is, if we have got services about technological platforms, you have got commensurate level of digital skills, do you still need Kenyans to physically visit government offices to consume services? The answer is no. I'm aware there are colossal sums of money spent on that exercise. But as government today, we believe that we can leverage on the skills, competencies, and capabilities resident within Kenyans themselves to undertake some of these programs. Look at the digitalization of government services that we have done so far. It has cost us almost zero resources as government. Moving forward on this issue of the digital identity, again, let me clarify that we will only leverage on the experiences of other countries which have undertaken this type of initiative where it adds value. We believe that we have got skills, competencies, and capabilities resident within Kenyans themselves to be able to roll out this program at minimal cost. It has been a policy in this government that we are not going to have revenue leakages. And we have been tasked by none other than the president himself to ensure as cabinet secretaries that there is highest levels of good governance within the ministries. We are not going to spend any taxpayers' money where it should not be spent. More so where we have got internal capacity within the country to roll out those programs. So we are willing, ready, and available to ensure that that program, while working in partnership with the Ministry of Interior, will be rolled out at optimal levels of cost. So the fear of revenue leakages, I think that should not be an issue or a cause of concern moving forward. You can rest assured that we will ensure that that process is undertaken within the highest levels of integrity possible, while knowing very well that any money in the hand of government is actually money held in trust on behalf of the Kenyan public. Then the other question was on what? On Wi-Fi. Stanley Kamangwea, you are the implementer. Can you come and respond?
Thank you, CS. And I'm happy that even the journalists are using your public Wi-Fi CS. On that particular Wi-Fi at City Market, it is true, CS, it was one of our first initial public Wi-Fi implementation and the first pilot 10. And when we installed that public Wi-Fi, the uptake was still very low, but over time, we experienced a lot of increased demand, and that is why the connection at that particular spot was a bit slow. We have since increased the access points, and that connectivity has improved. For all the other Wi-Fis, we are able to monitor how the usage is increasing, so that then we can enhance on a continuous basis. Thank you.
But just before you go, for purposes of clarity, do we have sustainability in the utilization of the Wi-Fis? I think that's what I wanted to be asking. That comfort that we are not going to be launching the Wi-Fis and then after a day or two, they are not working. Can you give them that comfort?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we have partnered. Initially, we had a number of challenges when we were deploying the public Wi-Fis. The biggest challenge was around power. Just payment of the power bills for the Wi-Fi equipment. So for that, we have partnered with the county government, and most of our installations we are doing within the markets where the county government is able then to take up the powers. We are also working with the market organizations and the leadership of the markets so that they can be able to, pay for the power. On the issue of maintenance, we are onboarding the public Wi-Fi's onto our maintenance framework. But I think in our engagement with the ISPs, where they are going to be deploying for us the public Wi-Fi. As they deploy the public Wi-Fi as a CS, they'll also be taking up the maintenance, and the commitment is there from the ISPs, and therefore the services will be sustainable. Thank you.
Thanks. I think what Stanley is trying to say, what Stanley is trying to say is that in the initial pilot phase, the agreement was that we establish the Wi-Fi hotspots, but recurrent expenditure, such as payment of electricity, was resident with the markets themselves through their respective associations. But they started defaulting on payment of the electricity. And the public does not know this, that it was the market themselves who were supposed to pay for power. So when now the Wi-Fi stops working, people think that the ministry deployed a Wi-Fi which was not sustainable. That was the challenge. And we have come up with a proactive measure of alleviating that challenge. That's why we have reached out to the county governments, and we have now gotten into a working arrangement where the county governments help us identify the sites where we are installing the Wi-Fis. Once they identify the sites, we go and deploy, but the county governments are going to meet the cost of electricity as a recurrent expenditure in a sustainable manner. So that will alleviate that problem. Any other question? Yes, sir?
My name is Joel Chacha from K24 TV. In the run-up towards the general election, there was a heated debate around the involvement of cabinet secretaries in active politics. Probably you have been active in terms of lobbying or actually shifting the ground, especially in Nyanza. Perhaps you could express your commitment of impartiality of your office in regards, of course, to engagement in active politics, or so to say.
Let me respond to that instantly. You see, from where we sit as cabinet secretaries, we are under strict instructions by the head of state to give service to all Kenyans indiscriminately, for a start, indiscriminately, irrespective of the voting patterns that we witnessed in the last elections. We are also under clear instructions not to dabble in politics. But there's a very thin line between politics and governance, because politics informs governance. You get into government through a political process, okay? But where I sit myself, I've not dabbled in any politics. If anything, I don't want to go into that space because I've got a clear mandate to execute under instructions from the appointing authority, and I've been focusing on my mandate as the CS responsible for information communication and the digital economy. But again, you cannot do this in a vacuum. For example, if people are hungry and you are a leader, what is wrong with distributing relief food? Are you going to prioritize provision of Wi-Fi and digital laboratories and not giving food, which is a basic necessity? Yeah? So I've not expressly come out to distribute, to undertake politics in Nyanza. But again, let me clarify something. I'm a minister of government from that part of the country. I'm responsible for the dissemination of government policy, not just all over the country, but in that region as well, as a responsible member of the society. And I believe that there's nothing wrong by telling people that for the government to effectively deliver on its mandate, we must create an enabling environment for the government to be able to deliver on its programs and activities. There is no way the government is going to deliver its programs and activities in an environment that is not palatable, or even for the purposes of the private sector, in an environment where we have got demonstrations week in, week out. That is actually an environment that will scare away stakeholders, private sector specifically. So when I say that, I don't think I'm dabbling in politics. I'm basically just discharging my mandate as a responsible what? As a responsible citizen. For purposes of clarity, I'm focused on the delivery of discharge of my mandate, and anything else, politics inclusive, is an irritating irrelevance at this point in time.
This one, when CS, you don't have to apologize. Everything is political. Bwana Chacha, I want to refer you to two people you should go and read. And this has been my complaint about the way you guys report. Go and read Plato and Aristotle on politics. Aristotle described man as a political animal. Everything is politics. You can come up with any semantics. And politics is everything that happens under polity, which is described, defined territorially, and a given law to govern it. We have the politics of the church. We have the politics of the family. Some of you are called names. Your children have nicknamed you some names. You are Saddam. When the CS goes to the field to distribute, the CS is a political animal. I am a political animal. Let it go on record. So, unless you as a media person really understands what politics means, don't ask that question. I'm sure you think politics is about talking about maandamano. Politics is also about providing services. These human beings who stay under polity require services. And there is a justification for those services. So from a pure academic point of view, nothing is outside the realm of politics. Nothing. But you can define it the way you want. So we shall keep distributing the food when people don't have food. We shall talk about government policies. We shall talk about the bottom-up thinking. Even look at the whole plan. It's about politics. We want to bring order in the polity by providing services and making life comfortable in the polity. So, all the things that the government is implementing, both inside cabinet and outside cabinet, is politics. You can challenge me.
Okay, so I hope that is well answered. Any other question? Yes, sir.
Hamjambo. Mimi naitwa Paul Nabiso na mimi nitauliza katika lugha ya Kiswahili kwa sababu ndugu Chiloba amezungumza Kiingereza kizito sana. Sasa kwa sababu si serikali ni ya hasla, wacha tusaidie pia wananchi. Kwa hivyo waziri umezungumzia swala la kuwa na zile hubs kwenye wards. Ndio. Vituo vya kidijitali kuwasaidia watu kule chini. Na mnasema kwamba mtazungumza na wabunge kuhakikisha kwamba hilo linatimia. Je, hiyo iko katika bajeti ama namna gani? Kwa sababu wabunge mara nyingi wanasema pesa ambazo zimetengewa CDF ni chache. Je, hiyo itakuwa katika, mtauliza fedha zaidi katika hazina ya kitaifa ama namna gani? Nashukuru sana.
Sio asti tutazungumuza na wabunge. Tayari tumeelewana nao. Tumezungumuza na tukaelewana. Na ile kitu inaendelea sasa ni kufanya mabadiliko zile zinahitajika katika CDF Act ili iwawezeshe kutumia kiasi ya pesa hiyo kuhudumia gharama ya maneno kama kulipa sitima. Kwa hivyo hakuna pesa ingine tofauti ambayo wanaenda kutafuta. Wako na uwezo, bora tu wamebadilisha hiyo act kutumia pesa ambayo wako nayo kwa sasa kutusaidia kwa kulipa maneno ya electricity. Yeah. Swali ingine? Don't go a notch lower by now introducing another language apart from Kiswahili. That is the bare minimum, yeah? Yeah. Yes, yes. Oh yes, yeah, please, Ezra, come and respond to that SIM card registration.
Thank you, CS. The issue of SIM card related frauds, and in the context of the campaign that we undertook last year, just to report that we started the campaign of ensuring 100% compliance when it comes to SIM card registration as part of the good practice of knowing your customer, especially from the telco side. We started that campaign when the whole industry was at 48% levels of compliance. 48% levels of compliance. That means the risk of fraud in that space was much, much higher. And following the campaign and the work that has continued thereafter, I'm glad to report, CS, that we actually now, the two leading telcos, that is Airtel and Safaricom, on average, we're at 97% compliance from 48% compliance. So the 3% that you see is largely around the challenges around accessibility, and you'll find that most of the people who have not complied are in those remote spaces, the northern part of Kenya, Baringo, Deep, and we're actually still building that database because the aim is to ensure that we have 100% compliance. But the challenge which we face is that we might be 100% compliance, but given the current legal framework, when it comes to SIM card registration, there are still limitations. For us to be sure that the persons being registered are the ones claiming to be who they are, the challenge is that we depend on EPRS, the Integrated Population System. The database is not necessarily current. So we are being invited to think around digital ID. CS is going to be very, very useful, even for this sector. And secondly, I know the regulatory framework is being reviewed, and I've seen draft provisions around biometric registration, so that the entire ecosystem of knowing your customer is actually legit, 100%, with high levels of integrity in terms of assurances in the business that we are dealing with. So yeah, you're going to have those cases of fraud in one case or the other, but really we must revisit the regime of registration as we speak. And secondly, there's also another element of public awareness, working together with the telcos to ensure that really citizens are informed in terms of how they behave when they're using the ICT services. So that's, I thought, was a very important question we need to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there are no new emerging issues, and perhaps now we can bring it to a close. Let me take this opportunity to thank everybody for responding to our invitation. The comfort and assurance I want to give you is that as a ministry, we will remain ready and available to engage all stakeholders depending on unfolding events from time to time. Don't wait for us to invite you. Also feel free to invite us when you feel that there is an emerging issue that necessitates a discussion. We believe in stakeholder alliances, partnerships, collaboration, cooperation, and that is the direction we are going to go. Anything that we are going to undertake as a ministry, we want to carry everybody on board. So we will deploy a participatory process in all that we are going to do. We look forward to working with you, great people, in realizing our vision of an empowered and digitalized Kenyan society. Thank you very much. God bless you, and see you soon again.
Sir, we're going to have a number of group photos, so I request CS and PS to remain there, and as the rest of the